Welcome back to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee. I'm CarrieVee, your biggest fan, the person who will believe in you always until you believe in yourself. And while you're believing in yourself, I will always believe in you. And this podcast is all things communication, leadership, confidence, clarity. It is all things life. Sometimes we have discussions with other people talking about the things that bring them joy or what is driving them in life right now. And sometimes you get just me. Today, you get just me. And we are talking about leadership and communication over the next few weeks. And as I get going in life again, I will be posting daily to social media on those two subjects. I intended to start that this week and then got hit with the nasty stomach bug that is going across from what I understand the country right now. It was nasty. It was bad. So I didn't show up on social media at all. And here I am saying I'm going to be on social media every day. Ooh, big communication mistake. So this is something, we'll just add this in as a extra bonus. When you say something, follow it up with, barring any unforeseen circumstances. I certainly didn't expect to get very, very sick this week, but I am back and feeling so much better, feeling human again. So I will get back on track and get those social media posts going up. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, there will be some kind of post that goes along with what we are talking about in this leadership and communication module that we will be following for the next few weeks with a couple of podcast episodes a week. We talked about leadership in the last podcast, and today we're going to focus on communication, specifically the top 3 communication mistakes that every leader makes. Every leader makes these, and well, not every leader, maybe some don't. I haven't met any though. Every's a big, broad word, but even leaders make these 3 communication mistakes. I certainly have made all of these mistakes. I will be honest and say, as a leader in my leadership positions in corporate, in my leadership positions in churches, in teams, in my family, I have made these mistakes. And we're going to dive into these. Communication is not about public speaking or perfectly worded emails or having the loudest voice in the room. Some people think that great leaders have the loudest voice. They talk loud, and so people listen. Sometimes people listen to the person with the loudest voice because the person with the loudest voice refuses to shut up, sit down, and listen. And they think that makes them a leader. It doesn't. The loudest voice in the room does not necessarily make that person a leader. It might just make them arrogant. And we get to discern that as we look at how they truly lead and how they truly communicate. Everyday communication habits quietly shape trust, morale, and influence, and for better or for worse. Communication will either make or break a company based on how that communication is done. These 3 mistakes are not made by quote unquote bad leaders. They're made by experienced leaders, smart leaders, people sometimes who genuinely care, but they're not infallible. So today we're going to walk through these 3 communication mistakes that every great leader makes, why they happen, and what to do instead without turning into a robot or overthinking every single sentence you say, because that's just as bad as not communicating well. We don't have to overthink everything. We just have to get clear on how we are communicating. So mistake number 1 is confusing clarity with volume. Okay, you might have seen this. You might have actually done this. I have. You explain everything and you can tell it doesn't land. So you explain it again, but with more words. And then again, but with more urgency. And suddenly you're frustrated because you've already said this 3 times, but nobody's getting. But here's the truth. Here's the truth. If people don't understand you, it's rarely because they didn't hear you. Let me repeat that. If people don't understand you, it's rarely because they didn't hear you. It's because of the message not being anchored to a why. The expectation wasn't specific, or the listener didn't feel safe enough to ask any clarifying questions. That one is huge. The listener didn't feel safe enough to ask any clarifying questions. When leaders feel pressure, they often default to over talking, more words, more meetings, more Slack messages, more WhatsApp messages, more Voxer messages, more follow ups, more emails. But clarity doesn't come from more communication, it comes from better framing. Instead of repeating, ask questions like, what part of this feels unclear? Do you think, what do you think success looks like? What are you hearing me say? That last one, that's super powerful. What are you hearing me say? That can be a scary question for a leader to ask because very often what they get in feedback might not be anything like what they were trying to say. And that then is on them. What are you hearing me say? Leadership communication isn't about what you said, it's about what your team or the other person hears. Leadership communication is not about what you said, it's about what others hear. So asking those follow-up questions is key, not pounding it over someone else's head. How many times have you heard a parent telling a child the same thing over and over again, louder and louder and louder and louder? That does not get the child to hear better. They heard you. They either didn't understand or they didn't want to do it. But saying it over and over again does not get your point across. In fact, after you've said it once and you start repeating yourself, they're not hearing anything but sound, noise. They're not hearing your words anymore because they have shut you down. You've said it once. Say it once and then ask clarifying questions. What did you hear me say? Because maybe what you are saying is not landing because it wasn't clear, and more volume isn't going to make it more clear. It's going to make it more confusing and more annoying to the listeners. So we want to ask those clarifying questions. A huge mistake that leaders make, whether you are leading a huge team, a small team, a church team, your family, you're leading someone. You're leading someone. All right, so mistake number one was asking those or not asking questions and confusing clarity with volume, confusing clarity with volume. Mistake number two is talking to be understood instead of listening to understand. We talked about this in the last podcast as well, but this is a huge, huge, huge point. So we are going to use it again here. Talking to be understood instead of listening to understand. Most leaders are really, really great thinkers. They're fast processors. They are problem solvers, which means when people are talking, their brains are already diagnosing, fixing, planning the response, diagnosing, fixing, planning the response. It feels productive to a leader, but it's stealing you being present with your audience. Here's the problem. People can feel it when you're just waiting for your turn to talk. It's written all over your face. No matter how you think you are hiding it, it is written all over your face. Your eyes are darting around. There's a blank look in your eyes. Your mouth sometimes starts to move. They can tell if you are truly listening or if you are just forming a response in your brain, even if you're nodding, even if you're saying, mm-hmm. And even if your advice that you're going to give is genuinely good, when someone doesn't feel heard, they stop telling you the full truth. They give you the safe, edited version, the version that won't rock the boat, the version that in their head they're going, what does it even matter? They're not listening anyway, so I'm just going to give this quick version. It'll keep me safe. It's edited. I'm going to leave out the important parts because they're not listening to me anyway. But real listening sounds like pausing before responding, reflecting back on what you heard and asking one or more questions instead of giving one more solution. Tell me more about that. Tell me more. It's very simple and uncomfortable and incredibly effective. Tell me more about that. Let them know you are truly listening because listening builds trust faster than any motivational speech ever could. People want to know that they matter and that you're listening to them. So, confusing clarity with volume, talking to be understood instead of listening to understand. And mistake number three is communicating from authority instead of connection. Because I said so, over polished language, hiding uncertainty to look strong, avoiding vulnerability to quote unquote maintain control. But here is the paradox of leadership. The more you try to sound like the leader, the less people feel connected to you. People don't follow titles, they follow humans they trust. Listen to that again. People don't follow titles, they follow humans they trust. They don't care what your title is. They want to know, do they trust you? Can they trust you? Connection doesn't mean oversharing, it means being real. People will follow you, people will listen to you when they know they can trust you. It means saying things like, I don't have all those answers yet. I don't know. Here's what I'm thinking, but I'm really open to feedback. I may have missed something. What's your all perspective? What do you have to add? Sharing your dream and vision and then having people come in and add their perspective will give you much greater results than you throwing out your vision to people and closing the door because that's all there is. That isn't all there is. More ideas around the table will create bigger and better results because you get to mesh them all together. It is about teamwork. A leader does not have all the answers. And if you try to position yourself as having all the answers, people will not trust you because everyone knows that no one has all the answers. No one does. And if you think you do, if you truly think you do, you are not a great leader. You can't be a great leader. It's impossible. Be open to that feedback. That doesn't weaken your authority. It strengthens your credibility. Strengthens your credibility because confidence isn't pretending you're never unsure. It's being steady enough to admit when you are. That is confidence. Confidence doesn't mean never being afraid. It means doing it afraid. It doesn't weaken you as a leader to admit that you don't know everything. It strengthens your credibility with the team that you are leading. When leaders communicate from connection, people lean in instead of pull back. That is the truth. But so many leaders make that mistake all the time. So here's your quick recap here. Number one, the 3 mistakes that leaders make in communication, even great leaders make: confusing clarity with volume, number 1. Number 2, listening to respond instead of seeking to understand. And number 3, leading from authority instead of connection. None of these require new scripts. None of them require you to go to classes on charisma, and none of them require you to be perfect. They require awareness. Awareness. Just being present, knowing your team, and being willing to listen to your team. So if you take one thing away from today's podcast, let it be this: the way you communicate sets the emotional tone of everyone you lead. The way you communicate, the way you connect with people sets the tone of everyone you lead. Everyone, teams, families, communities, businesses, yourself. Leadership communication isn't about impressing people. It's about making people feel seen and heard, listened to. That is true communication. If this podcast resonates with you, if this series resonates with you, make sure you share it out, like this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, share it out, and please leave a review. That would be absolutely amazing. So your journal prompt today is this: what's one conversation that you thought you handled well, but if you're honest, might have landed very differently for the other person? If you're honest about it. If you look back on that conversation that you thought you handled well, how might it have landed differently for the person that you were talking with? I am CarrieVee. I am your biggest fan. And until next time, enjoy this day you have.